Hello everyone, I'm Karim Zachary and you're watching World News Program, and up next are the top stories. Gaza's last hospital suffocates under Zionist siege and critical patients arrested during transfers. WHO warns of collapsing health system while Amnesty International demands the immediate release of health workers. Gaza's cold claims 7 martyrs, including 6 children. Government media warns of more casualties as rains flood displaced ants, worsening the crisis, while UNRWA raises alarms over famine and food insecurity in the Strip. Also in our news, Algeria is to host the UN Security Council ministerial meeting on Palestine and the Middle East, prioritizing Palestine during its rotating presidency. It emphasizes its success in shaping positive proposals and asserts that the UN is the best framework for Syrian dialogue. And Algeria rejects the opposition of foreign occupation in Western Sahara. It announces preparations for the Algeria-Libya-Tunisia summit in Tripoli, addressing Libya's election and foreign intervention challenges. Stay tuned to the details shortly. Hello again and welcome back to the program. First off in our news, the medical director of Friends of the Patient Charitable Hospital in Gaza, Said Saleh, has raised alarms over the danger facing children, particularly infants, due to the occupation's disruption of oxygen supplies. Saleh emphasized that the hospital, the only one in northern Gaza with an incubator and pediatric ICU, urgently needs a large supply of oxygen to sustain critical cases. He appealed to international organizations to provide an oxygen station immediately to prevent further loss of life. Meanwhile, the Palestinian news agency reported that the Zionist occupation forces arrested several patients during their transfer from the Indonesian hospital in northern Gaza to a Shifa hospital in Gaza City on the night from Sunday to Monday. The agency stated that 4 patients were detained, with 1 in critical condition at the time of arrest. And on Monday, the World Health Organization condemned the attacks on Gaza's hospitals and called for the release of Kamal Adwan Hospital's director, Hossam Abu Safiye. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus warned that the health system is under severe threat, with occupation forces detaining 4 critically ill patients during their transfer to a Shifa hospital. He also noted that 7 patients and 15 health workers remain at the Indonesian hospital. For her part, WHO spokeswoman Margaret Harris stressed that the attacks on hospitals and medical staff are unacceptable and that the organization will send a team to assess Gaza's medical needs.
The health system is severely threatened. Kamal Adwan Hospital in northern Gaza is out of service after being bombed. Patients and staff were evacuated, and its director, Dr. Hossam Abu Safiya, was arrested. We demand his immediate release. Stop the attacks on hospitals. Gaza residents need healthcare access, and humanitarian workers need access to health aid. A ceasefire is urgent. Critically ill patients were transferred to the Indonesian hospital, which is also out of service, and 4 patients were detained during the transfer. We urge Israel to respect their health rights.
And on Monday, Amnesty International called for the immediate and unconditional release of detained health workers, including Kamal Adwan Hospital's director, Hossam Abu Safiye. The organization expressed deep concern for his fate and urged the international community to take urgent action to end the ongoing genocide in Gaza, which has been perpetrated by the Zionist occupation for over a year now. Palestinian medical sources confirmed that several children in Gaza City have shown symptoms of polio linked to the recent cold wave in the area. Bashar Murad, director of Al-Quds Hospital, reported that 2 cases with polio symptoms were recorded at the hospital and samples have been taken for further examination. On Monday, a Palestinian infant from Gaza died due to severe cold, joining his twin, who was martyred on Sunday in Deir el-Balah, central Gaza. Palestinian medical sources from Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital confirmed that Jumu'ah al-Batra's twin passed away from cold-related conditions, worsened by the Zionist siege and the dire lack of humanitarian aid for the displaced. This brings the death toll due to the cold to 6 infants and 1 doctor within a week. The government media office in Gaza warned that the death toll may rise due to the ongoing cold and frost waves in the besieged Strip. It strongly condemned what it called criminal Zionist practices against the displaced, including the destruction of homes and forcing families into dilapidated tents. This has led to the martyrdom of 7 displaced persons, including 6 infants, last week. The office urged international organizations to intervene urgently to stop the massacres and held the U.S. administration and supporting countries accountable for the ongoing genocide, destruction, and forced displacement of the Palestinian people. And just on the night of Sunday to Monday, heavy rains flooded hundreds of tents in displacement camps across the Gaza Strip. The displaced, particularly in Deir el-Balah and Mawasi Khan Yunis in the south, endured a harsh night as their tents were flooded, and blown away by strong winds. The story is signed by Zahra Frajanina.
The relentless winter weather is compounding the misery for thousands in the Gaza Strip. Overnight in Deir el-Balah, strong winds and rain flooded and tore apart dozens of tents that were already barely holding up. Families who have been living in displacement for months are left scrambling to recover what little they have left.
Due to the rain yesterday, water gathered over the worn-out tents and broke them, broke the wood, and the water went down on those asleep. We got up at 3 a.m. to try and gather what is left of the tent. This is our situation.
For Palestinian families in Gaza, these broken tents offer little protection from the elements. Just 1 night of rain was enough to overwhelm their fragile shelters.
We fled the shelling of the Israelis and came to the rain. Floods under us and in our tents. No one cares about us. No official cares about us. I've been using a Ventolin inhaler for a month, but I'm not getting better because of the cold and the lack of blankets. The tent isn't suitable for rain.
Over in the Zawaida camp, the rains also had devastating effects, collapsing kitchen tents and turning the ground into a quagmire.
The outer tent, which served as our kitchen, collapsed inside. We were overwhelmed by water and the ground became slippery.
I am appealing to all Arab and foreign countries to try to save us and to immediately take the initiative to stop and end the war. As Palestinians, we are exhausted. The rain overwhelmed us and the tents were swept away by the wind. All night, we clung to our tents for cover. Where could we go?
As families in Gaza endure the hardships of a brutal winter, their cries for help grow louder. Their lives are caught between the relentless storm outside and the unrelenting violence they left behind. And as they huddle under whatever shelter they can hold on to, the lack of support from the world remains an ever-pressing source of frustration. With no end in sight to the war and the weather worsening, these families fear their struggles are only beginning.
Meanwhile, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, warned of an impending famine in Gaza, exacerbated by severe food insecurity and a lack of humanitarian aid. In a statement on Sunday evening via the X platform, UNRWA highlighted that the aid reaching Gaza is minimal and insufficient. The agency called for international cooperation to end the conflict and facilitate the delivery of life-saving aid. At least 5 Palestinians were killed and several others injured on Monday in separate attacks by the Zionist occupation forces in Gaza. 4 were killed in a bombing near a care center in Jabalia, while 1 was killed in a raid on a house in a Zaytun neighborhood south of Gaza City. The occupation forces also launched artillery and drone strikes on a Sabra and a Zaytun neighborhoods, further intensifying the violence in the region. The Zionist occupation carried out 3 new massacres in the Gaza Strip, resulting in 27 martyrs and 149 injured in the past 24 hours. The Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza announced on Monday that the death toll from the ongoing aggression, now in its 451st day, has risen to 45,541 martyrs and 108,338 wounded. Many victims remain trapped under rubble or scattered in the streets. And in our other topical news, Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf announced that Algeria will organize a ministerial meeting of the UN Security Council on the situation in Palestine and the Middle East during its rotating presidency in January. In a press conference in Algiers on Monday, Mr. Attaf also revealed plans for another ministerial meeting addressing the challenges of combating terrorism in Africa, which he identified as a major threat to the continent's stability.
سيستمر تركيزنا حول القضية الفلسطينية.
Our focus will remain on the Palestinian cause, as Algeria will organize a ministerial meeting of the Security Council aimed at discussing the latest developments in the occupied Palestinian territories specifically and in the Middle East in general. Regarding the African continent, the focus will be on combating terrorism in Africa through organizing a ministerial meeting of the Security Council to deliberate on the spread and expansion of this scourge across our continent, especially as terrorism has become today the most prominent and significant threat to the security and stability of African nations.
لأمن واستقرار الدول الإفريقية.
And on the same occasion, Mr. Attaf reaffirmed Algeria's commitment to prioritizing the Palestinian issue during its rotating presidency of the UN Security Council. He emphasized that Algeria will continue its efforts from the first year of its term, by launching initiatives to keep the issue at the forefront of the UN's attention. Let's have a listen.
ويحسب للدبلوماسية الجزائرية.
It is to the credit of Algerian diplomacy that since its adherence into the Security Council, it has been the origin of all initiatives aimed at maintaining the focus on the Palestinian issue at all times. Algerian diplomacy is also recognized for having submitted numerous draft resolutions and declarations aimed at curbing the Israeli aggression against Gaza. Algerian diplomacy is also credited with having always sought to mobilize more support for the Palestinian cause within the Security Council.
In assessing Algeria's activity in the UN Security Council, Mr. Attaf highlighted Algeria's success in becoming a positive driving force within the body during the first year of its term. In a press conference outlining the achievements of Algerian diplomacy over the past year, Mr. Attaf recalled Algeria's role in leading the group of 10 elected members of the Security Council to submit comprehensive and joint draft resolutions for the first time in the bloc's history.
One of the instructions of the President of the Republic, the need to work so that Algeria becomes a power for positive proposals that contributes to bridging the cracks and divisions between the permanent members within the Security Council. Algeria has largely succeeded in this endeavor by helping to unify the voice and influence the elected group of the 10 countries, the E10, for the first time in history of the Security Council. This group, which represents the entire international community, has begun to initiate joint draft resolutions based on the draft resolution presented by Algeria at the beginning of the year on the Palestinian issue.
بداية هذا العام حول القضية الفلسطينية.
Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf emphasized that the United Nations is the best platform to facilitate dialogue between the parties in Syria. In a press conference in Algiers on Monday, Attaf outlined Algeria's clear vision on the recent developments in Syria based on 3 key principles: ensuring inclusive participation in shaping Syria's future, respecting Syria's territorial integrity, and maintaining the unity of its lands.
وهنا بالنسبة للجزائر الأمور.
For Algeria, things are very clear, and our position is based on 3 essential pillars. The first is that Syria is sufficient for everyone, and the future of Syria is defined by all Syrians. The second pillar is Syria's territorial integrity. The third pillar of our position is that the United Nations remains the best framework to oversee any dialogue between the Syrian parties with the goal of building a Syrian future.
يرمي إلى صنع مستقبل سوريا.
Attaf also confirmed that the Algerian embassy in Damascus continues to operate normally, emphasizing that Algeria recognizes countries, not governments. He noted that this approach has historically enhanced the flexibility of Algeria's diplomatic position.
أقول لكل امتناني وعرفاني
All my gratitude, my recognition for those who preceded us in this profession, in diplomacy just after independence, because they determined the orientations of the independent Algerian state regarding international recognitions. In the spirit of their wisdom, they decided that Algeria only recognizes states and does not recognize governments. We have a consulate in Syria which goes about its business as normally as possible, with all the communications it is supposed to make.
الاتصالات التي يجب أن تقوم بها.
Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf emphasized that any formula contradicting the established facts in Western Sahara is simply procrastination, stalling, and a maneuver with clear intentions in a press conference in Algiers on Monday. Attaf stressed the importance of addressing the Sahrawi people as the rightful owners of the land, rather than the seeking support for the myth of the self-rule from external backers.
فيما يخص قضية الصحراء الغربية.
As for the issue of Western Sahara, the Algerian position inside and outside the Security Council draws its strength from historical constants that cannot be refuted or deceived. And these are completely linked facts, considering that the Sahrawi issue is a question of decolonization, whose process is not completed. The Sahrawi people are qualified to exercise their inalienable and imprescriptible right to self-determination. And since the Moroccan presence on Sahrawi lands is a total foreign occupation that cannot be legitimized nor imposed and cannot be accepted as inevitable.
ولا يمكن القبول به كأمر محتوم.
Attaf reiterated that the Moroccan occupation of Western Sahara, which he described as foreign and fully fledged, cannot be imposed or accepted as inevitable. He reaffirmed Algeria's stance on the issue, which is grounded in historical constants that cannot be disputed.
من هذا المنظور
From this point of view, let me emphasize once again that any solution formula that contradicts these established facts, such as the myth of the autonomy plan, is nothing but procrastination and a maneuver with blatant intentions and objectives. The Sahrawi people have a cause, the Sahrawi people are the right holders, and the Sahrawi people own their land.
والشعب الصحراوي هو مالك أرض.
Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf announced the preparations are underway for the third summit of the tripartite mechanism for consultation and cooperation between Algeria, Libya and Tunisia, set to be held in Tripoli at the beginning of the new year. Mr. Attaf praised Tunisia and Libya's approval and engagement with Algeria's proposal to establish this mechanism, which has led to tangible cooperation projects. He emphasized Algeria's commitment to advance in its bilateral relations with its Maghreb neighbors.
The Algerian proposal to establish a trilateral mechanism for consultation and cooperation received approval and the commitment of both Tunisia and Libya. This mechanism has already held 2 summits, resulting in practical cooperation projects aimed at addressing issues that directly concern these countries. We are currently preparing for the 3rd summit, expected to be held in the Libyan capital Tripoli at the beginning of the new year, God willing.
Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf revealed that the situation in Libya has been exacerbated by internal divisions over which party should oversee the organization of elections, as well as foreign interventions. He stated that these factors have made the Libyan crisis increasingly intractable to efforts and approaches aimed at resolving it.
The current issue is not the principle of elections itself, but rather that all disputes have shifted to determining who has the necessary authority to organize the elections. Discussions we had with the acting special envoy of the Secretary General revolved around this topic. How can elections be organized and which entity can take responsibility for organizing them? The real deadlock lies here. When we talk about the broader or more general context in Libya, it involves the issue of foreign intervention. I wanted to highlight that the interplay of all these local and external factors, along with political, geopolitical and internal political elements, has led to this deadlock. This deadlock has in fact made the Libyan crisis resistant to all attempts and approaches to resolve it.
Regarding the Sahel region, Attaf emphasized that the stability, security and well-being of this shared region are inseparable from Algeria's own security and stability. He also highlighted Algeria's ongoing efforts to strengthen bilateral relations with African countries.
Algeria worked with both words and actions to be a factor of calm and stability in the region, building bridges of cooperation and solidarity with brotherly countries in this regional context. Algeria's hand remains extended to its brothers because the stability of this shared space, its security and its prosperity are integral parts of the peace, security and prosperity of our country.
On Monday, the Russian presidency ruled out the possibility of launching negotiations to end the war in Ukraine under the current circumstances. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov stated that the conditions are not favorable for ending the conflict, accusing the Kiev regime of refusing to negotiate. For his part, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov also opposed the deployment of Western peacekeeping forces in Ukraine as part of any settlement. In an interview with the official Russian news agency TASS, Lavrov rejected this idea, along with other proposals by U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, such as postponing Kiev's NATO membership. All right, it's time to catch up on more international news stories making headlines around the globe in this report by Yasin Arikti.
Ukraine's Air Force shot down 21 of 43 Russian drones targeting 6 regions on Sunday night. In response, Russia's Ministry of Defense claimed to have destroyed 4 US-made HIMARS systems and downed 65 Ukrainian drones. Russian forces also reported capturing the town of Novolnovka in Donetsk. The Kremlin also ruled out peace talks, blaming Ukraine for rejecting negotiations under current conditions. Croatia's Electoral Commission announced that the second round of the presidential election will take place in 2 weeks. The Commission confirmed that outgoing President Zoran Milanovic failed to secure victory in the first round and will now face Dragan Primorac, the candidate from the ruling Conservative Party, in the upcoming runoff. South Korea's acting president, Choi Sang-mak, ordered an emergency inspection of the country's entire aircraft operating system on Monday to ensure safety standards. He emphasized that the top priority is identifying the victims of the recent Jeju Air incident and supporting their families. Meanwhile, Yonhap news agency reported another Jeju Air flight experienced a landing gear issue after taking off from Seoul's Gimpo airport, but the plane returned safely to the airport. Former US President Jimmy Carter, Nobel Peace Prize laureate, passed away at the age of 100 at his home in Plains, Georgia, surrounded by family. Carter, the longest-living US president, served one term in office and won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002 for his efforts in promoting social and economic justice. In response, President Joe Biden declared January 9th a national day of mourning to honor Carter's memory and legacy.
And to wrap up our news, the Tarit region in southwest Algeria is experiencing a surge in foreign tourist arrivals for the winter vacation, coinciding with the authorities' approval of visa facilitations and the implementation of a special security plan. These measures allow visitors to explore the magic of Tarit's nature and heritage. The report is signed by Salman Asib.
Each year, many tourists, both local and international, flock to southern Algeria to celebrate the new year. Tarit, located 93 kilometers southeast of Bashar, welcomes visitors during the winter holidays, coinciding with the year-end festivities. Following recent measures to simplify tourist visa procedures, more visitors are coming to experience the beauty of Tarit, a jewel of the Algerian Sahara.
It's my first time in Algeria, and I heard so many stories, and now it was really time for us to come and to see by ourselves. It's fine, I have to see it by myself. And now we made a tour from Algiers to Oran, to Tlemcen, to Béchar, and now we are here. And what can I say? It's have fun. I have fun. Yeah, my son is around with a quad, and it's a nice place for us.
Adventure lovers will finally experience the thrills of the Saharan wilderness in complete peace of mind. The relevant authorities have implemented appropriate security measures to ensure the comfort of tourists, allowing them to fully enjoy the legendary beauty of this vast golden expanse during their stay in Tarit.
The city of Tarit is experiencing a significant influx of Algerian visitors, especially foreign tourists. To ensure the smooth running of this tourist season, the city's security department has deployed teams to reinforce security in various tourist areas of Tarit.
In this magical world of sand, desert enthusiasts find their joy. Blurring the line between fantasy and reality, they immerse themselves in the natural landscape of southern Algeria, where endless pyramid-shaped dunes are naturally displayed.
Well, that's the end of our news program. Thank you for tuning in to our channel. Until next time, have a good one.